Hey, it's Dr. Jaime, and let's talk about the importance of salt and electrolytes. If you're living the low carb life like me, your requirements are actually much higher. And there's only one source that we trust in our home, and it's the people and products at Redmond Real Salt. They keep us coming back for more every time. Real salt's an all natural, unrefined sea salt harvested from an ancient ocean. It's full of natural minerals that make it healthy, delicious, and pink or red looking. They're also the best selling brand in America's health and food stores. Redmond Real Salt is so pure, it's free of pollutants and microplastics found in many other natural refined salts. The Redmond Salt Deposit is in Redmond, Utah, where the team enjoys award winning work conditions and generous pay. And since they own and control the whole process, you can be sure that real salt comes to you through their world class production facilities in its unrefined, mineral rich, delicious state, exactly as nature intended. Redmond has amazing natural products, including salt, electrolytes, toothpaste, and so much more. So check out the entire line at www.redmond.life, where you can use my code DrFit, that's DRFIT, for a discount on all Redmond Real Salt and Relight products. Welcome to the Fit and Fabulous podcast with Dr. Jaime Seaman. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Jaime, and welcome back to the Fit and Fabulous podcast. I'm so glad that you're here today, and I have an incredible guest that I'm interviewing today, and we're going to chat about so many things that I think you're going to find interesting. So Tyler Lamarche is a transformation coach, and he works with entrepreneurs that are ready to own their body, their pride, and access their hidden ancestral potential. He works to help clients reawaken the lion within them by conquering their mindset, using ancestral nutrition, and utilizing superior methods of exercise to reverse the clock. His goal is to change the current narrative of using medications to band-aid our health issues instead of fixing the root cause of why we have our health issues in the first place. I can say amen to that. Through countless hours of self-education, experimentation, he's found his own true health and the person he is always meant to be. Healing his own body ignited his passion to help other people achieve the same. And he believes it's time for a change and we need to create this change together. So Tyler, welcome to the Fit and Fabulous podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We hosted a summit here in Omaha this last year called Hard to Kill Summit, which of course, I wrote a book called Hard to Kill, but the theme this year that really resonated was transformed people transform people. And it is something that I still use today. And it's true to my own story, to be honest, even though I'm a doctor. A lot of people know I struggled with my own health problems. So Tyler, take us back to before this all started and tell us what was going on in your life and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. I highly agree with that. I mean, we all go through our own story to why we are where we are today. So for me, my entire life, I dealt with a lot of gut issues and severe brain fog. So in my family, we all have really bad gut issues. It just kind of runs in our genetics. I'm the only one I'm aware of that had the severe brain fog to the level I had it. But just going through school, I mean, school is the toughest time for me in my life. Teachers in class would constantly be complaining to my parents how I wouldn't pay attention. I couldn't comprehend anything they were saying. I always had to ask all these extra questions, always needing to get all the extra attention. And I couldn't help it. I couldn't comprehend anything that they're trying to teach me. And it got bad. It was just like a lot of after school sessions with my parents trying to figure out, do I need to get on Ritalin? Do I need to get on any of these medications to help my brain function properly, help me pay attention, help me calm down? And my parents wouldn't do that. They wanted to kind of change my diet more, go that route, because they really were against the medication route. So school is tough. I mean, I really couldn't comprehend most things I was listening to in class. The homework was always a struggle. All throughout middle school, all throughout high school, I would just come home. I did my best. I tried to take all the notes I could in class, pay attention the best I could. It's just what they were saying. It didn't quite kind of cross my brain barrier and help me understand it properly. So I would come home, bring my mom my homework, and she would have to help me on it because I couldn't really do it on my own. And I would just get to these moments of just physically, just hyperventilating, beating myself up. I would literally punch myself in the face, just get super mad, keep hitting my head just because I was so frustrated. My brain just would not work. And this went all throughout middle school, high school, college. I wanted to be an engineer. That was my goal. We had a family business, doing fence construction, and I had been building fences since I was about 13. And I'm a landscape company for a while. I tried to be a firefighter, a police officer. So I was doing all that stuff after high school and through college a little bit. But my passion was I wanted to become an engineer or something like that. And just realizing like, man, all the math classes I'm going to have to go through to become an engineer, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. I can't remember anything I'm learning in school. There's no way. So I kind of gave up that dream. And I didn't finish college. I probably did like 2.5, 3 years of college maybe, but just kind of taking units here and there as a community college. And I just dropped out. I stopped. I just didn't really see the point in continuing on, just because I'm not going to remember anything. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm never going to be good enough to get a degree in anything. So I just quit. And I just went back into the family business, just building fences. I did that pretty much from strictly from about 21 until 29 or so, just working in the family business. And always had gut issues, like always had, my stomach was always stinging, irritated. I was always bloated. I was always gassy. I was literally like having gas every 30 minutes or more than that, every 10 minutes, all the time, my whole entire life. My brain fog was the biggest issue. It literally felt like I was just high on like marijuana or something all the time. I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't process information very fast. I just felt like I was in like a deer in the headlights look all the time. And it just made me feel really down on myself, really dumb, worthless, really affected my self-confidence. And my whole family, we ate pretty clean most of my life. We ate very similar to what most people ate very early in life, like in like kindergarten age, slightly through middle school, but we had always eaten more of a whole foods diet after that. Just a lot of fruits and vegetables, more white meats and stuff, because we believe the whole thing about like red meat, it's not good for you, causes heart disease, blah, 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 high cholesterol, high saturated fat, not good. And then I went to a time in my life where I actually was vegan for about a year and a half or so in my early 20s. That was even more unhealthy. Brain fog was even worse back then. I was skinnier than I've ever been. It was just horrible. So I tried that for a while. That didn't work out either. So I went back to more of an omnivore diet. Just typical bodybuilding diet, like a lot of chicken breasts, a lot of turkey, fish here and there, just tons of rice, tons of like nuts and avocados and eggs, sweet potatoes. I was eating like 5,000 to 7,000 calories a day. It was crazy. I was eating every like 2 to 4 hours, typical bodybuilding diet. And my gut was just getting worse, obviously, because I already had gut issues. So I'm just eating this much food every single day. And it was another one of my insecurities, being skinny. I've always been really skinny my whole life. So I was trying to bulk up, get as big as I could. So I always knew I was kind of a dumb person. I just couldn't comprehend things. My brain just wasn't working. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take care of this other insecurity. I'm going to fix me being skinny. So then I got in the bodybuilding diet, started doing all that thing, worked out for an hour, 2 hours in the gym every single day. And my gut issues just got worse. The brain fog just got worse. So I did this, I mean, all throughout, I just ignored all the issues because I'm used to it. My gut's always been like this. My brain fog's always been this bad. So I just stuck with it. And I did this until I was about 29. And I actually had joint issues as well. My knees were always hurting. My low back was hurting, doing the physical labor, being a tall guy too, just kind of digging holes, pounding T-posts, mixing concrete. My back was just kind of deteriorating, getting worse and worse. I mean, I had some days where I could barely step out of my car and stand up and go to work. My back was so bad at times. And then what really changed my life is when I was about 29, my dad and I were about to do a fence at this guy's house. And I was getting ready to set up the job, get all the tools out, get the fence all lined up. And the customer walked out and he's like, hey, like, my name's so-and-so and nice to meet you. And what do you have in your water there? And I said, it's just some kind of health tea. My family's really into health and we take this certain supplement. We mix it under water. He's like, oh, cool. That's awesome. And he's like, so you're into health and fitness. That's awesome. He said, my son is super into health and fitness as well. And he told me his name, Dr. John Jaquish. He's like, have you ever heard of him? I was like, no. So he's like, Google him real quick. So I Googled him. This dude just like super successful, invented OsteoStrong, X3 bar, goes around the world, just teaching people about those two things and just kind of like getting people to think differently about just the current narrative on how doctors have been taught with nutrition and exercise physiology and all that. And so he's like, do you want to meet him sometime? I was like, heck yeah, sure. So he said, I can set up a meeting for us in 2 weeks. You can come over. My wife and I at the time, we came over 2 weeks later, met Dr. John Jaquish. We sat in the back patio. He starts telling me all about the X3 bar. And I was already open to kind of learning about a new system of way of working out, because I'd been a weightlifter for about 10 or 12 years prior to that. And my joints were starting to hurt. I just wasn't seeing the results I thought I should have. The crazy caloric surplus diet just wasn't seeming to working very well. I just wasn't feeling very good. So I was open to something new. He told me about the X3 bar, variable resistance instead of static weightlifting. So you lift them with bands, it's a bar and a plate. And he demonstrated it. I was like, man, this thing's crazy. That's awesome. And then he said, like, you want to try it? I was like, heck yeah. So I got on it. I did the deadlift. The first thing I did, I have never felt just such good muscle isolation. It wasn't loading my joints first. It was loading my muscle first. I could feel it. It was just amazing. And I was hooked. I was sold. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to get one of these. So he ended up sending one to me later, and then he starts going into the carnivore diet. He's like, the best thing you can pair with this to get the best results is the carnivore diet. And I was like, wait. So you just eat meat. That's all you eat. And he's like, yeah, man, like it really works the best. I can give you all the studies you want, the background on it, but it really works. It's changed my life completely. And I was just saying, okay, like I have heard, like on Joe Rogan podcast, he was talking about with Dr. Sean Baker. Oh, no, not Dr. Sean Baker. He was talking about with Jordan Peterson. He was talking about with Jordan Peterson about the carnivore diet, how Jordan Peterson is doing the carnivore diet. That's the first time I ever heard of it. So I made that connection. I was like, oh, okay, I remember. I've heard about the carnivore diet before. I was like, you're crazy, man, but I guess I'll try it. We'll see. And so after that, I started researching everything I could possibly learn on the carnivore diet. I started listening to all the podcasts I could listen to, looking up like scientific research, studies, newspapers, everything, books. I just went really deep into it. And that's where I learned about Dr. Paul Saladino. So I was listening to some other podcasts. It was some MMA fighter who had Paul Saladino on his podcast. And this guy was Paul Saladino, who's talking about like eating like our ancestors as hunters and gatherers and just getting away from this paradigm of using medications to fix our issues instead of fixing the root cause of what's going on. And I was just, this makes so much freaking sense. This is amazing. So I've listened to every single one of Paul Saladino's podcasts probably 2 or 3 times because it's just such valuable information. I got hooked. I found Dr. Sean Baker, James Dinick, Jave Asprey, just all these connections I've made just finding other people. And you actually, I found you through listening to one of Dr. Paul Saladino's podcasts as well. And I just got really into it. And within about 3 months, 2 to 3 months of doing the carnivore diet, it changed my life completely. Like my gut issues all went away. I stopped having gas. I stopped having bloating. My stomach stopped hurting. My brain fog, this was the most intense thing ever. My brain fog, I've had literally brain fog consistently my entire life. I've never known what it has felt like to have a clear brain. My brain fog lifted. I could start comprehending information. I would listen to podcasts and be able to listen to it and recite everything I heard to like my dad or my mom when I was working. I could read books and totally understand the whole thing cover to cover. I could watch movies and understand what was going on. I was smart finally. I could like comprehend everything I was reading or seeing. It was amazing. And it totally changed my life. So I was hooked. I was like, man, this is the way. Like, I want to help other people do this. So that's when I decided to become a coach. I was like, man, screw this fencing thing and doing all this physical labor. Like, I feel like I have a bigger purpose than this. So what I did was I told my dad, like, I'm considering about becoming like a coach. I want to help people with their nutrition. I want to help people. And then the X3 too, is like the carnivore diet and the X3. I can help people on both these things and totally change their life, just like it changed my life. Because I know what it did for me. So I worked for my dad for maybe a couple more months or so. And then I gave him my 2 weeks. Finally, I was just like, I'm going to become a coach. So I struggled. Obviously, it was hard to find. I was going to become an online coach. I thought mostly coaching was just done in person. I didn't really know online coaching was a thing. And I started seeing like other social media influencers talking about how they coach online. So I was like, man, that could be really cool. So I tried to get clients. Dr. Jaquish got me inside the X3 user Facebook group. So I quickly became an authority inside that group. People saw me kind of training on the X3 bar, showing form techniques and all that. People would come to me here and there. I'd post like nutrition tips or just quick tips about really anything. And then they would start reaching out to me over Facebook, and I started kind of building up a clientele. And it just kind of started taking off a little bit. And then I hired a coach to help me start an online business because I didn't know what was included in starting a business. So I hired him, showed me how to create an online business, and it was difficult. So about 3-4 months doing that, kept getting more and more clients. And then because of the brain fog lifting for the first time in my life, it changed a lot of things for me. I literally started a totally new career. I started eating a totally different way. The relationship I had with my ex-wife at the time, I realized it wasn't a good relationship. I started getting rid of friendships that weren't good inside my life. I noticed that my own relationship with my wife, it wasn't healthy. It wasn't good. It hadn't been healthy and good for a long time. So it just clicked. I was just like, unfortunately, like we're just not meant to be together. Like we've broken up almost every single year, all this 7-8 years we've been together. This is not a healthy relationship. I just feel like we're kind of going in two different ways. That was really hard for me. So one day I just realized like, man, I just don't want to be married to you anymore. And it was a super, super emotional, the most emotional time in my life. I asked her for a divorce. And just, I'll never forget that look on her face when she was just totally blindsided. And I mean, it almost makes me cry to this day just thinking about it, but it was hard. It was really hard. So I asked her for a divorce, and we went through a time of we ended things. We kind of decided maybe we should get back together. Maybe we should end things, get back together. So it was just kind of that back and forth after ending it. And then finally we just ended it for good. But I was so emotionally distraught in that time that I didn't have it in me to keep going with my new business and to create my new business. So I actually went back into my family business for about a year or so, back into fencing. And then just all the negative thoughts of my whole life. It was just like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to start my own business. Like no one wants to listen to me. No one wants me to coach them. So I just told myself that every single day, like I'm no good. But I was clear headed though for the first time in my life. And I did get myself out of it. I went through all that depression that year. I did get myself out of it. And every day I just started building myself up. Like I can do this. This is what you really want. You don't want to be doing physical labor for the rest of your life. You want to become a coach. You want to help people. You're not going to be able to help very many. Like it's cool building people fences. Like you're keeping in their livestock and all that kind of peace of mind for all that. But I'm not able to help very many people doing that. I want to like worldwide scale. I want to help people fix their nutrition, fix how they're exercising, and just totally change their life like it changed mine. So I just kept telling myself that every single day. That's my why. That's why we're going to do this. And then every single day, I just started giving those positive affirmations day after day after day. And then I finally said, you know what? I'm going to do it again. I told my dad, my 2 weeks, here's my 2 weeks again. I'm going to become a coach again. So then I did it. And ever since January of this year, 2022, I've become a full-time coach again. So I've been doing it from January till now this year. I've worked with a lot of clients. I know for sure this is what I want to be doing. I'm loving it. It's exciting. It's not easy because starting a new business, it's hard to get your name out there. And it's hard to become that authority in the space, but I'm working on it. But carnivore diet, it totally changed my life. I'm a totally new person now. I can think clearly for the first time in my life. My brain actually works. My relationships are better with people. I'm more present. I don't feel so down on myself. Just all my insecurities are just floating away as I continue down this journey.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I know that there's somebody listening, and it's, it's cool for me as a provider. I get to hear stories like this all the time. And it's validating, right? But I think that nutrition can have such a profound impact on our lives. And I think there's so much politics and controversy out there. And I think it really just muddies the water for a lot of people. So let's talk about back to the day when you met, Dr. Jaquish and got introduced to X3. What was like when you first started, when he's like, oh, go eat carnivore diet? Because there's somebody listening that maybe it's like their first day of like, okay, I'm going to go into this new life. Tell me how quickly you started to feel. I mean, you've talked about how this brain fog lifted, you started to feel better. Was it really quick? Did it take a lot of time?
So there's an adjustment period with everything you do. So I tell clients typically there's going to be adjustment period for probably 2 to 5, maybe 6 weeks transitioning into carnivore, because most people are used to eating all day long. They don't have any specific eating windows. They're eating within like 12 to 14 hours a day. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So it's going to be an adjustment. Like when you do the carnivore diet, you're going to probably be moody at first because you're switching from a high carb diet, which most people do, to a more high fat diet, low carb. So your energy kind of fuel source is going to be a little bit different. You're going to be feeling different from that. So energy fluctuations, you're probably going to be tired, like ready for bed sometimes at 12 or 1 in the afternoon. Your skin might get itchy because your body's going to start detoxing. Because it's like all the crappy food we're eating, the body doesn't know what to do with a lot of this crap food that's not real food. So the body just stores it. And all the like household products, the cleaning products we use, all the chemicals and that stuff, our skin is super porous. So it goes through our skin and our body doesn't know what to do with a lot of it. So it stores a lot of it. Whatever we can't pee, poop, or sweat or breathe out, it just gets stored inside the body. So your body's going to start eliminating all these toxins. You're going to have itchy skin. You may have acne again. You may have dry skin. So it's not going to be peachy and perfect all the time right away. There's going to be adjustment period. So like I said, it could last anywhere from 2 to 5, 6 weeks or so.
Were you eating a really high carb diet before
Oh
this?
yeah. Oh yeah. So the bodybuilding diet I was doing like the 5,000 to 7,000 calories a day. I was doing about 400 to 700 grams of carbs a day. Ridiculous. Like 5 to 6 pounds of sweet potatoes a day, 3 cups of rice, like, uncooked, and then cook it. It fills up big giant Tupperware. So I was doing about 400 to 700 grams of carbs a day. It was a lot. So that was a huge transition for me.
Wow. Did you get labs checked or anything like that prior to this transition? Or like, were you seeing, as you were kind of telling this whole story of like, I was sick and not feeling well, like, had you seen doctors? Like, had anybody tried to do any testing to give you any answers?
No. My family, we've always kind of avoided doctors. I wish I had gotten blood work and stuff done before I went carnivore. I do have my blood work now, which is super interesting. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I wish I had done testing. But I mean, we've always never really gone much to the doctor, just kind of tried to take care of things ourselves with eating better. But yeah, it would have been nice if I did have those numbers beforehand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about your cholesterol and things like that now.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've taken a more invested interest in your health and you're probably like me and check things all the time. So tell us what's going on with your labs and cholesterol.
Yeah. So my cholesterol is 650, which absolutely insane. You tell most doctors that, they're like, you're going to statin immediately. There's no way. So my cholesterol is 650. My LDL is 551. My HDL is 98. I'm not sure what my triglycerides are, but I mean, those are high numbers. Like most doctors see that, they're going to freak the heck out about that. But I feel great. I've never felt better. It's because I eat a very high saturated diet, high stearic acid diet. That's the only reason why my numbers are this high. I was listening to a podcast with you and Paul Saladino, and you were saying that your LDL is under 100 while being on carnivore. Yeah. That's crazy.
So I'm sure you've looked into the work by Dave Feldman, and yeah, so Dave is doing some interesting research, and it will be published, I think, soon. There's little bits and pieces of it that seem to be kind of filtering out. And yeah, I don't think the whole, story about cholesterol is, what we maybe thought it once was. Have you done any additional lab markers like LPA or ApoB or ApoA or any more advanced cardiac? Yeah. No. So yeah, this is the interesting thing with LDL cholesterol is we've really, thought that it was the be all end all of cardiovascular disease and atherosclerosis. And it's myopic to just look at LDL. For people listening, we really need to look at other markers. What are your fasting insulin? What are your triglycerides? What's your glucose levels? And some of these other cardiac markers I think will be helpful too at kind of risk stratifying people that maybe could be at risk for cardiovascular disease. But yes, I'm not the norm of people. You would fit this more kind of lean mass hyperresponder type phenotype. And I didn't. My LDL is below 100, but Dave and I were talking, and he thinks it's probably because of the level of resistance training that I do. And which is interesting because he asked me to go through a period of time to back off on it. And so after my last bodybuilding show, I haven't talked about this on any podcast, but I really, really dialed back and was just doing a lot more low intensity, wasn't doing a lot of heavy weights. And my LDL went up to, it wasn't high, but it went up to 140, it was 90. So, which was interesting. I mean, that's more than a 50% increase. So it was very interesting. I think that there's so much bio individuality, happening, and probably some genetics at play with, what happens with people's cholesterol response. Have you been to a doctor since?
I haven't been to a doctor in years. I honestly can't even remember the last time I've been to a doctor.
Because most people, their doctors heads will explode.
Yeah.
So, okay, talk to us about this X3 system. So for people listening, tell us what it is and why it's so awesome. I own an X3 system, and I don't use it exclusively, but I do train with it. And I think it's a very effective tool that doesn't take up a lot of space, can be done anywhere. That's actually where I love throwing it in the truck when we go to the lake and being able to use it in that capacity, but tell people about it.
Heck yeah. So it's super mobile. I mean, I've used it in airports. I've used it on sidewalks. Like, I've used it at the beach. It doesn't matter. You can literally take this thing anywhere. So it's it's hard to say, variable resistance instead of static weightlifting. So static weightlifting, it's going to be the same weight throughout all three ranges of motion. You have a weak range of motion, you have a mid range of motion, you have your strong range of motion. The bottleneck for most people, for everybody, is going to be your weak range of motion. That's going to hold you back from how much weight you can lift. So with variable resistance, it's a band that you're using. So these are very heavy bands. These are not like some resistance band that you see people using for like if they're injured, they're trying to recover from injury. They're not little like 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch bands. You're using really big bands here that are capable of 600 to 700 pounds of resistance. So because there's variance, it's lighter in your weakest range of motion. So let's say, for example, you're doing a chest press. It's lightest here. This is your weak range, mid range, strong range is almost all the way extended, not quite. You're 7 times stronger here than you are here. So by training more in your strongest range of motion, you're going to have more growth potential. So you're going to fail in your strongest range of motion. You're going to reach failure in your mid range of motion and reach full failure in your weakest range of motion to the deepest level of failure you've ever been to in your life. So with weights, it's like the weight's the same. When you're done, you're done. That's it. You have nothing. You can't do anything about it. With the X3, because you're reaching full failure in all three ranges of motion, you're getting to a much deeper level of failure that you've ever even experienced in your life. Because of that, you're going to release more growth hormone and more testosterone. You're going to burn body fat quicker, and you're going to gain muscle mass faster. It's a much more intense stimulus. Because the stimulus is so accurate, it's so amazing, it only requires 1 set per exercise, and you're done. So instead of doing multiple sets like a lot of people do in the gym, when you're actually doing a lot of multiple sets like that, most people are breaking down muscle tissue. Breaking down muscle tissue is not a thing. You don't want to be doing that. You actually just need the stimulus for growth. Your body cares about heavy, and it cares about the deepest level of failure you get to. So with the X3 bar, you get heavy and you get to the deepest level of failure. And that is going to get you to lose body fat and gain muscle mass quicker. So it's just a more time efficient thing. So it's like, I used to be a weightlifter too. I lifted weights for like 10 to 12 years before this. I would do like the 5x5s and 6x6s and all that. I would work out a lot. It was too much, way too many sets, way too many reps. I was breaking down muscle tissue. With X3, you're not breaking down muscle tissue. You're giving the stimulus for growth, and your body's going to respond to that stimulus. So 1 set to failure. So a minimum of 15 full reps, maximum of 40 full reps, and you're done. So if you can't get at least 15 full reps, you got to back off and do a lighter band. If you get 40 full reps or more, it's time to go up to the next level band. But it's literally 15 to 40 full reps, deepest level of failure you can get to, and you're done. That's it. So like for push day, there's one set of chest press, 1 set of pec crossover, 1 set for tricep press, 1 set for overhead press, the shoulder press, and then 1 set for double leg squat or the single leg split squats. And then pull day is deadlift. There's just 1 set for that, bent row, 1 set for that, bicep curl 1, and then the calf raise, and that's it. So it's literally push and pull day back and forth. And muscle confusion is also not a thing as well. So we've been taught, the whole fitness industry has taught us, like, you have to confuse muscle. You have to do this certain program for this certain amount of weeks, and you got to switch it up, and you got to switch it up again. Muscle confusion is not a thing, because, like, again, the body cares about the weight, and it cares about the deepest level of failure you get to. So it doesn't matter. You're doing literally the same push and pull day back and forth. As long as you're getting that heavy in, deepest level failure, and you're going to gain muscle mass as fast as you possibly can. So that's the biggest thing with X3. It's amazing. It's super time efficient. I used to work out 1 hour to 2 hours in the gym every single day. Now I work out 20, 25 minutes a day. I could even do it in 10 minutes if I really wanted to, but I like to take like a 2 to 3 to 4 minute rest between each exercise before I do the next one, because that's when I feel like my breath has finally calmed down. I'm going to be strong enough to do the next exercise. So super time efficient. You can literally do it anywhere.
Are you using this exclusively?
I literally only use X3. That's all I do. I don't do any cardio, nothing. I play sports here and there. Like I play basketball, recreational league basketball, but I literally only lift with X3.
And you say a workout takes you're saying like 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, it takes me 20, 25 minutes. Yeah. Yep. 1 set to failure per exercise.
So I think one of the difficulties with X3 is this idea of going to maximal failure. Because our brains, when people, and this is just true for any workout, as soon as people feel like it starts hurting, they're like, oh, like, now I got to stop. When I trying to explain to people that when it starts hurting is like when the repetitions actually start counting.
Yep.
And most people don't pick a weight that gets them to that point. There's just this level of comfort when we go to the gym. Oh yeah, I did 3 sets of 10. I did 3 sets of 15 or whatever it is. And women in particular, actually, with resistance training, we tend to actually use more fatty acids, and it's harder to fatigue women. So women can actually do a lot more repetitions than men can. Women are just, it's kind of a misnomer that women aren't as strong as men. Women absolutely are as strong as men. And, but I think one of the difficulties with this is this idea of going to maximal failure, because I have the X3, you guys, and I know what it's like, and I know how much it sucks. When you're going through these zones and you fail the first zone, and I'll tell you, it's pretty quick. Like once you fail, I don't know about you, Tyler, but it's like, once you fail that zone, it's like, it's pretty quick that you're failing through the other two. But I think that's really hard for some people to go to that level of like, you are dead. Like you literally can't do like anything else, like one more repetition. I think that's a really hard place for people to get to, because people don't like being uncomfortable. They don't like discomfort.
Exactly. Yeah, there's mind failure and then there's body failure. Two different things. Your mind's going to probably shut you off about 60%. Like your body wants to preserve energy. It's going to start saying, this sucks, this hurts, I don't want to do anymore, we got to stop. You just got to ignore those voices and literally go for body failure till you literally can't even move a quarter inch anymore.
Yeah. Incredible. Have you done any body composition testing or anything like that?
Nah, not really. I've kind of just measured with a soft tape measure, from going from weightlifting to now lifting with the X3, but nothing crazy. I've never used a DEXA scan or anything like that.
How do you feel like, so then subjectively, how do you feel like your body composition has changed going from like trying to do traditional bodybuilding to using X3?
I feel more cut now. Obviously the diet had the biggest impact on that. I just feel more cut now. My traps have gotten a lot bigger, my lats, my arms more defined, my legs are probably stronger than they've ever been. I just notice the muscle just seems more real. It's not like I was before. I was so reliant on carbohydrates to give my body all that water weight to give me that size, but it wasn't real size. It was mostly like fat and water weight that was giving me that size. Since now I'm pretty much full carnivore, it's all true muscle mass now. So I'm more dense, I guess, with actual muscle instead of water weight and fat being more of a distraction.
Yeah. So tell us what a day of eating is like for you.
Okay. So I start off in the morning. I probably eat about 9:30, 10. I do all 100% grass-fed meat. I do 80-20 ground beef, a pound of that. I do 4 or 5 eggs. I do a little bit of unpasteurized raw butter, a little bit of raw pasteurized cheese. And then, before my workout, I do something, it's like my vasodilator basically. So Dr. Jakers has this funny thing where you take like Cialis or Viagra or something for a vasodilator. I'm never going to do that. There's no way. So what I do is I do salt water. So 90 minutes before my workout, I mix up in 20 ounces of water. I mix up 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt, and I drink that within a half hour. 15 minutes later, I do my aminos. It's a EAA supplement. And then I do actually raw honey about 10 to 15 minutes before I work out. I do a lot. I do like 4 to 5 tablespoons. I used to do about 6 tablespoons. So I've been cutting it back a little bit. And then I do my workout, and then I stretch, and then I do more honey, about 4 or 5 more tablespoons. And then I have dinner about hour or 2 hours after that, depending on when I work my workout in the day. For dinner, I do 1 pound of stew meat, usually chuck roast, rump roast. I like the cheaper, fattier cuts of meat. And then I do about 6 to 8 ounces of organs. I do kidney, heart, and liver. Sometimes I experiment with like spleen. I really want to try brain. I'd love to try bull testicle. But almost all the time it's kidney, heart, and liver. And then just more butter, more cheese, and salt. That's it. That's what I eat every single day.
What does your family think of your current dietary selections?
Yeah. So my mom was pretty plant-based a lot of the time. I've known her
since the womb.
Yeah. So she's been mostly plant-based ever since I've known. And it was crazy. I convinced her to actually do carnivore. It took me about 8 weeks to do it. Like I would just go over and we would just go at it. Like I was just showing her studies and all this information and all this back and forth and what it's doing to me. And she's just like, there's no way. We just had those yelling matches back and forth, 8 weeks. And I was determined I was going to convince her to go carnivore. And finally, after 8 weeks, I did. But at first she thought I was really crazy for doing it because we all believe the same thing, like red meat's bad for you and all this. And then she became full carnivore. What it was for her was she started seeing the change in me. So she started seeing my brain fog went away. She's like, Tyler, your brain works like a computer now. What the heck? Because I was just like reciting just blah, 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 blah. All these podcasts, I was listening to all this. And I was just like endlessly sharing all this information. She's like, how the heck are you remembering all this? So she could see the change in my brain. And then she saw the change in my body composition. She saw I was getting more cut, more defined. I was starting to get a little bit bigger because I always struggled with, I'm a hard gainer. It's very hard for me to gain muscle mass. So, and she just saw my nervous system started calming down. I wasn't getting so upset about things all the time. So that was another thing I forgot to mention. My nervous system was completely jacked up my entire life as well. Like my lows were low and my highs were extra high. So I could never find that balance. So all the things she saw in me, that convinced her. She's like, man, there's something to this. And then she started telling her best friend about it, got her best friend doing it. And my mom's been carnivore just as long as 8 weeks less than I've been carnivore, but she's carnivore now too. I got my dad to do it for a little bit, but he's a hard one to keep consistent on it. So he kind of goes back and forth. My brother, he's trying. He's definitely starting to. He's been more animal based for a long time. He's never really eaten many vegetables. But I wouldn't say he's full carnivore. He's getting there. So it's starting. But my brother's a big dude. He's a big buff dude and very, very good bodybuilder.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So tell us what you've learned working with clients. I mean, I think I learned so much from my patients. And so it's like, you obviously have found something that really works for you, but sometimes when you start working with other people and you have to troubleshoot problems, especially working with male and female clients, tell us a little bit about kind of what you've learned working with these people.
Yeah. So in my head, it's so easy. Like carnivore diet, it literally doesn't get easier than that. The X3 workout takes 10 minutes for most people, maybe 15. I just can't wrap my mind around how more people aren't doing this. And I just see it so clearly, like this is how the macros are supposed to look. This is how your calories are supposed to look. This is how you do the X3 workout correctly. So I show my clients this and I'm starting to realize like, because it took me a long time to find this way of eating, to find this right diet, to find the X3 bar, to go through all the things I've been through. So it's showing me that I have to allow my clients to go through their own journey too. It's like, I can give them all the answers. I can make it as simple as I absolutely want, but they have to make that connection themselves. I can't make them do that. So although it kind of can irritate me at times, how like, why don't you see this? It's so easy. Just like literally do what I'm telling you to do. They have to get there slowly. They have to make one habit change at a time. And I'm beginning to be more patient with helping them build those habits over time and not expect so much at once. Because when I start a client, I'm like, okay, you're going to eat this way. You're going to exercise this way. I'm going to show you how to do the X3 bar correctly. We got to start sleeping better. We got to stop stressing so much. So I go into their life and I really figure out like, okay, this is what we got to improve. This is what we're going to do. So I come in hard and I'm starting to realize like, okay, let's go a little slower. Let's take it back a little bit. Because most people, they can't change that many habits at once. It's too hard. Like realize how it was for me. Like I didn't change all these habits at once. I wasn't immediate going into the carnivore diet. I still was doing the white rice. I was eating mostly carnivore, but I still did white rice because I wasn't convinced fully that it wasn't about a caloric surplus that got you gaining muscle mass. So it took me time to transition into that. So I'm just becoming more understanding of clients as I'm starting to work with more and more people.
So, one thing people say, you're eating this like meat-based diet. You're not eating plants anymore. You're not getting any fiber. For somebody that like you that had a lot of gut issues, what has been your experience with like your gut problems transitioning?
Yeah, fiber. So to me, it's so easy. It's like you eat a bunch of fibrous foods, you just fill the toilet bowl. It just goes right through. I know it's kind of gross, but you eat a bunch of fiber, you fill the toilet bowl, you eat a bunch of animal-based foods, you're absorbing almost everything you're eating. So you're hardly pooping at all. So to me, that is showing you right there, which is more bioavailable, which one is your body more able to assimilate and absorb. So I just don't understand how so many people think you need fiber to have a healthy gut. you have to do it. You don't have to do it. Like fiber is not good for your gut. Like I've been listening to a lot of Anthony Chaffee, I think that's how you say his name, a lot of his information. And he's saying this fiber is not good. It's resistant. It blocks you from absorbing nutrients. You really don't want to make much of your diet fiber. It actually can ferment inside your gut, create alcohol. Dr. Robert Kiltz and I were talking about that. It can back up inside your intestinal walls and colon walls, and bacteria grows on that. You start getting like candida, bacterial overgrowth and all that. So fiber is not necessary. And when I took out fiber, my gas went away, my constipation went away, my bloating went away. So I firsthand can feel the difference in my gut when I got rid of fiber completely. And yeah, like when I was first transitioned to carnivore, I had the runs. I had the runs for quite a while, actually. Most people experience the runs doing carnivore for the first, I don't know, week to 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, maybe. I mean, I had it on and off for probably a year or two, and I still have it here and there. But I would experiment like, okay, maybe I'll try to, because like the bile acids not being absorbed by the fiber that you're eating. Like, okay, I experiment with that a little bit. Maybe I'll have a little bit of sweet potato. But then when I ate the sweet potato, I didn't feel so good. So it took my body, my gut's been messed up for so long that I think it just took my body years to correct the gut issues that were going on. And now I pretty much don't have fiber hardly at all anymore. Like the only carbohydrates I eat is just raw and filtered honey. I was doing fruit. Like when Paul Saladino started saying like, okay, you can open up the diet to more fruit, more honey. I started doing that when he said so. And I just didn't feel as good doing that. I felt better when I was more strict carnivore with doing a little bit of honey, which is not a little bit of honey. I do a lot of honey. It's like 4 to 5 tablespoons pre and post workout, but it's only before and after my workout. But I've honestly felt so much better ever since I got rid of fiber nearly completely. I just have it once in a while. Like I'm not perfect. Like sometimes I'll have Thai food, I'll have sushi, I'll have a burger here and there with the buns. And I'll have other things here and there. Like I'm not perfect, but the average of what I do is pretty freaking perfect. And I can tell you, getting rid of fiber, it changed my life. It really changed my gut health.
Yeah, I think you bring up such a good point. After all this Liver King controversy that came out, I made a post. It's like, everybody is human. Like, I think people watch, people may watch your social media and are like, oh, Tyler does such a good job. He does his X3 workout every day, eats his perfect diet. But, when you take care of yourself, vast majority of the time, you can have small excursions from your diet and it's not a big deal. But when people do this repeatedly and repeatedly, and one thing too, that I probably honestly need to talk more about is that, when people are low carb, and I just had a patient the other day. She's like, we went to Disney and I just decided I'm going to just eat whatever. When you're low carb for long periods of time, you down regulate insulin secretion from the pancreas. And so if you suddenly go out and eat a 300, carb meal or whatever, there's a reason most of these people are like, oh my God, I felt like so awful, because your body isn't used to that amount of carbohydrates. So one thing that is important for people listening is that when you take carbs out of the diet, it's actually good to do it slowly. And then when you reinitiate carbs into the diet, it's good to do it slowly. So
makes sense.
Yeah. And part of that is that the microbiome is changing. You're down regulating, up regulating receptors, enzymes, hormones like insulin. So, that's something that people, when people are like, well, I'm on and then I'm off, and then I'm on and then I'm off, like find something that you can do consistently and understand that nobody's perfect and you can have small excursions here and there. But the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth is probably actually doing more harm to a lot of people when they can't really stick with it, for a period of time.
I agree.
Yeah. So do you do you talked about supplements. So you do some like EAAs, you're, doing the raw honey. Do you take any other supplements?
No, I just do, it's called I Am Amino. So essential amino acids. It's got all 8 essential amino acids in it. Stephen Butler is the CEO of that company. I was taking Fortigen. Fortigen is Dr. John Jaquish's amino supplement, and it's great. And I just stopped doing it because it's got a little bit of vegetable and seed oils in it. And I found that I'm Amino is a little bit cleaner. So I started doing that. It's they're all sweetened with stevia. I'm Amino's got monk fruit in it. It's just a little bit cleaner. It's something that's processed. It's not perfect. Obviously it's best to get everything from a clean diet, actually eating food. And I was experimenting with it for a little while. I was doing like less meat, a little more aminos to see if I would gain muscle mass faster. Because supposedly like I'm Amino, or the aminos are like 98 to 99% usable by the body. And then you go to like meat and eggs. I've heard it's like in the 40s or 50s% usable. That doesn't make sense to me. Those numbers have to be off. But I've just been told that the aminos are more absorbable, and you may gain muscle mass faster from using those. So I've experimented with it, but I haven't come to a really good conclusion of what actually works quite the best. I'm a hard gainer. I'm very rare because I'm a skinny, like, string bean. I'm super lean guy. I'm a very hard gainer. I can barely put on fat and I can barely put on muscle. So I'm really trying to dial it in for hard gainers, what's actually going to be the best. And for me, I think it's going to be a little bit more higher calories. It's going to be more meat, less aminos. But then some people, it's probably going to work better, less food and more aminos, but it still is something that's processed, and I wouldn't go too crazy on it.
Yeah. I'm a hard loser. It is like, for me to cut body fat, it has to be very strategic, but thankfully I can gain muscle. I don't want to say relatively easy. Gaining muscle takes a lot of very diligent work, but yes, we all have different genetic potentials for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So I end a lot of my podcasts with something called the semen analysis. All of you guys know that. And I found this study that highlights the maternal choline in pregnancy and how important it is. So this is I literally this week, I think I've gotten, Tyler, like 5 messages from dudes who are carnivore, who are like, my wife and I are going to try to get pregnant, and I want to know what prenatal you recommend. Literally, like, so many messages this week. And, no, so, I mean, the real answer to this is you should be able to get everything you need for a pregnancy from your diet.
Mm-hmm.
A prenatal vitamin is like an insurance policy, but when you look at prenatal vitamins, it is hard to pack so many things into one freaking pill. Okay. It's impossible. And there is something called choline, which is extremely important for pregnancy, that most prenatals do not have enough choline. And if you're not eating an animal-based diet, you're probably not getting enough choline, because choline is a bulky substance. And so to package it into these capsules or tabs or something like this, you're going to have to be taking like multiple per day. And people see this all the time. They bring me in prenatals. They're like, it says take 6 per day. Is that right? I'm like, well, yeah, probably, because it's probably based on the bulkier substance in the vitamin that's required. So anyway, I have this study, and it is from April of 2018. So very recent. It was a randomized control trial. It is titled Maternal Choline Supplementation During the Third Trimester of Pregnancy Improves Infant Information Processing, a randomized double-blind controlled feeding study. So basically, it is a rodent study, but I want to tell you that it has also been shown in humans. But what they did was, they know that choline during pregnancy produces these lifelong cognitive benefits. So it's extremely important for your baby's brain. And experimental studies have shown these cognitive effects in humans, but they've been a little bit more inconsistent, because it's hard in humans to actually and you'll find this in all nutritional research. It's hard. People don't actually eat the same things every day like Tyler does. People's diets, like, they really vary, right? They like to do good for a little while, then they go off, and then they do good, and then they go off. So they were looking at maternal choline supplementation in pregnancy on infant cognition. And these were, so women entering their 3rd trimester were randomized to consume until delivery 480 milligrams of choline per day, or 930 milligrams of choline per day. And then infant information processing speed and visual spatial memory were tested at 4, 7, 10, and 13 months of age. The mean reaction time averaged across the 4 ages was significantly faster for infants born to mothers who consumed 930 milligrams of choline compared to 480 milligrams of choline. So these results basically indicated that people that consumed twice as much choline in the last trimester of pregnancy, their babies had way faster processing speed. And the 480 milligram choline group, there was a significant linear effect of exposure of duration. So basically, infants that were exposed longer showed faster reaction times. So we're just looking at this 3rd trimester, but hello, like, it matters for the entire pregnancy. And even a modest increase in the maternal choline intake during pregnancy produced cognitive benefits for the offspring. So the reason that I really want to highlight this is because although they started studying this in rodents, this is a human study talking about the importance of choline, and you get choline from animal-based food. So this is why I don't recommend plant-based, vegan, vegetarian diets in pregnancy without massive amounts of supplementation, because even supplements are not as bioavailable to our body. And most prenatal vitamins have definitely less than this amount of choline. So you have to be getting it from the diet. You have to be eating eggs and meat and things that contain choline. Breastfeeding women are also very depleted. And for anybody listening that's ever breastfed a baby, when Tyler was talking about his brain fog, I call it mommy brain, because in pregnancy and breastfeeding, you can deplete your choline to such significant levels that you literally have debilitating brain fog. Like you can't remember anything, you can't function. It can be really bad and you can feel really depressed and awful. So choline, so important for pregnancy. Just want to highlight that for everybody listening. Tyler, have you had clients that are in their years of fertility or pregnant or anything like that?
Actually, no, I've never had a pregnant client.
Yeah. So I get questions all the time about, carnivore and animal-based diets. And, the real answer is like, we don't have studies, on these things because we can't randomize pregnant people and say, okay, you eat a vegetarian diet, you eat an animal-based diet, you eat a Mediterranean diet. So a lot of it is observational. So looking at, food frequency questionnaires, what did you eat during pregnancy? And then trying to associate that with outcomes in the pregnancy. So it's very difficult to study these populations, but I'll tell you, I have taken care of pregnant patients, eating these types of diets, and, it's a whole food diet. They're getting tons of nutrients, and I have had great outcomes. And one thing though, that people do need to know for any sort of low carb diet in pregnancy is that, does it need to be zero carb? Probably not, but glucose testing in pregnancy is not as accurate. You can get false positives, and it's for the exact same reason that I was explaining earlier with Tyler talking about downregulation of insulin from the pancreas. So if you're not eating 300 carbs a day in pregnancy, and then you give a woman a 50-gram glucose tolerance test, her pancreas is not used to seeing 50 grams of glucose in one setting. And a lot of times you can get a false positive result on glucose testing. So I'm more a fan of checking blood sugars and checking them against the diet. And at the end of the day, we just want normal blood sugars and normal insulin levels. So, All right. Hope you guys enjoy that little tidbit on choline. So Tyler, tell people how they can find you and how they can work with you if they're interested.
Yeah. So on Facebook, I'm Tyler Lamarche, YouTube, Tyler Lamarche, LinkedIn, I believe I'm Tyler Lamarche. It's either Tyler Lamarche or Regenerative Life Fitness. My website, Regenerative Life Fitness. I just had the website finished a couple of days ago. It's amazing. Super proud of it now. But yeah, just Instagram, Regenerative Life Fitness. Reach out to me anywhere, any social media platform, Tyler Lamarche or Regenerative Life Fitness.
Well, I know I love following you. You put out great content, and you guys should go give Tyler a follow. And we'll have to have Dr. Jaquish on the podcast. I haven't had him on, so
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. So, all right, you guys. Well, thanks for listening. Make sure you leave your comments, leave your reviews. Make sure you share this with people who would find it helpful and useful, because we depend on all of you to share these messages with the world. Did you guys love that last episode of the Fit and Fabulous podcast? Well, of course you did. And I want to keep bringing you the most amazing content from the most incredible people. And you can help me by subscribing to the Dr. Fit and Fabulous channel. You guys know where the button is. Just click it. It's the doctor's orders.